Lois.
And I'm Stacey.
And you are listening to Whose Girl Are You? Today we have a guest with us. Boo is joining us today for the podcast. And we are going to attempt to talk about talents and gifts.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Those are different?
To me, they are.
Yeah. And we'll talk about those differences.
Well, welcome, Boo.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this morning and having coffee with us.
Yes, totally.
Did Lois tell you what I said when she asked me if I do it?
No.
I said my gift and talent is not speaking, so. Can I sing it instead?
Yeah, I'd love that. So everything that you say from now on better be a melody.
I don't sing for two people either, though, so that's off the question, too.
We have to pay more than we're paying you to have you do that?
We need a crowd back there.
Oh, okay.
Stacey's got virtual backgrounds on. Come on, Stacey, I want a stadium behind you.
Yeah, I could too. I probably
bleachers.
could.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, this isn't my house that you're seeing in this photo.
I was a little jealous, and I'm like, where's he going to brush his teeth? That looks like that's a huge master bedroom.
I am like in a closet. So, yeah, don't be too jealous.
So we have a question for you, Boo.
Yes, I have answers.
Whose girl are you?
I am Chuck and Green's daughter.
I'm always curious about this. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
And where do you fall in that?
I'm second.
Okay.
And where did you grow up?
Well, I don't know if you call it growing up. Until I was 9 years old, we were in New Hampshire. And then we moved down here when I was in the summer before I turned 10.
Okay.
And so left 4th grade, came down here and went to 5th grade.
So you're in South Carolina?
Yes, I'm in South Carolina. So I guess you could kind of say I was kind of raised in both places.
Mm-hmm. Half and
half. I used to say New Hampshire's my home and that's where I'm going to live for the rest of my life. As soon as I can move out, I'm moved. Yeah. Nope. Now this is home. This is so much home.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a really influential age to move.
Oh, I was very, very, very unhappy until I was 16, probably.
Yeah.
Hated it here.
Yeah, that's rough.
Mm-hmm.
I did that to my kid. Except for I moved her from South Carolina up to New Hampshire right after 4th grade. And she was pretty miserable for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. And guess what? She's back down south now.
she did go back.
Very recently, huh? Yeah.
Very recently, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so we're gonna... Sorry.
No, you're good.
What?
No, I was just...
This is one of those days, isn't it?
So what were you going to say, Lois?
Nope, I'm not saying anything.
I was just going to say that was rough.
Yeah, I get that. That's a hard age, even if you're not moving and losing your, having to make new friends and changing schools. And, that's kind of it feels like to me is kind of the beginning of a few bumpy years.
Yeah, my 4th and 5th graders are very emotional, so I understand how I felt that way back then.
Right, especially throwing those big curveballs in. Yeah.
Yep.
So jumping right in, so I want to know if you can define. You say gifts and talents. Is that what you said? Mm-hmm. Gifts and talents are totally different things. So tell me about that. How are they different? Like, how would you define those?
Not necessarily totally different. For me, a gift comes from God.
Okay.
It is nothing I can, I'm going to use this as an example. Please, during this whole thing, please don't think I'm going like this, patting myself on the back here.
Yep,
I promise I'm not doing that.
Yep.
But I've been told I have a unique singing voice. And I don't think that's something that I have done at all. God literally placed this voice inside my body and it's what comes out. I have no say in it whatsoever. I think the talent part comes in. If I'm ever willing to go to voice lessons and hone the voice part of me, that would be more of a talent. I do believe that talents can be gifts and gifts can be talents, or more gifts can be a talent too, but does that make sense at all?
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
You can hone that gift that you've been given. Yes.
And talents, I know I can, I picked up a camera, and part of the gift is God has given me an eye and an understanding for composition and that kind of stuff. My brain just sees it, but I've had to learn camera, and I've had to learn how to deal with people taking pictures and stuff like that. And I think that is more of a talent than a gift.
Okay.
The gift is I'm outgoing, so I can do this kind of stuff. And the gift is like the sound that comes out of my mouth when I sing is that's a gift, not a talent.
Right. So yeah, I think it does make sense. And one of the ways I think you can almost tell if something is a gift is it's something that you naturally can do it. And a lot of people don't recognize gifts in their life because it's something that usually comes natural. Mm-hmm. So you think because it comes so natural and easy to me, it's just almost, you don't put a lot of value on it until you start realizing other people don't have this ability. Then you start to look at it a little bit differently and say, maybe this is a gift. So one of the ways, same thing, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but one thing that I'm gifted in is I'm gifted at being able to be up in front of large crowds of people and speak and be natural. And
that's a serious gift.
and work at like MC events. And here's the thing about it that's funny is when I'm doing it, I feel the most like myself.
Yeah. Like comfortable.
Right? Like
people are seeing the real you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's me when I get up and start singing. I'm like, that's where I feel like I'm saying how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's totally cool.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to put it. I like that. This is the real me coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you have this strange feeling of God's created me to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You feel like you're in the right place.
And you know what's crazy? Most of the time, you don't know it until you're actually in that spot. You're terrified to get up there, but then you're up there and you're like, okay, I got this.
Yeah. So this is true. This is how I found this out. Mm-hmm. Can I just humor me and let me tell you a story? So when I was in high school, I can't remember if it was 11th or 12th grade, it was mandatory to take speech class. And every Friday we had to get up and give a 60-second, so 1 minute current event speech every Friday. Well, believe you me, every Friday morning I felt like I wanted to vomit. And I was trying to play sick so I could make it to school late because it was first period. So like if I could just get there late, I can skip past this whole thing. I didn't care if I failed the class. I was so terrified. The few times I did get up there and do these speeches, I would break out in like blotchiness all the way, like my face, my neck, my shoulders. So I'd always try to wear like the highest necked thing possible. I would sweat profusely. I would stutter. I couldn't keep a sentence coherent. It was just the most terrifying, awful thing. I'd shake so bad I couldn't hold an index card. And this was just in front of a class of 25 of my peers. Mm-hmm. And so I always thought this is not for me. And then God put it in my heart to do something at one point a number of years ago, maybe 6 years ago or so. And I realized that if I was going to do this thing, I was going to in fact have to get up on the stage and introduce these people. And I was willing. I just said, okay, Lord, if this is how you want to use me, then use me. But I just thought, I'm not cut out for this, but I'll do it, right? And so I got up to do it. And when I get up there, all of a sudden I was terrified before, right? I knew that I'm looking at my watch. It's almost time. I'm terrified. I get up there and the minute my feet hit that stage and that mic is in my hand, it all goes away. And all of a sudden I realize God has created me for this. And somehow, you know what though? Before that, I wasn't in the kingdom of God, right? When I was in speech class, when I was in high school, like, you know how you're born again and God has made all things new? He changed something in me during that I didn't realize that he had until I stepped into it. And then I said, okay, he has made me new and he has created me to do these things. And these are the gifts he has given me now that I have the Holy Spirit. And so praise God. So it's not of me, although I've honed it. I've honed my talent, right? By
your gift,
my gift. I've taken that gift and I've been not taking it lightly. And then now tried to research other things, how to hold yourself, things to do and not to do, to make it easier for people to watch you.
I think that's what he wants us to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, here's this gift, treat it well.
And here's this information that you're going to need to use my gift that I gave you.
Mm-hmm. So when did you realize that you had a gift?
Not till I was like 35.
Okay. Tell me.
I can't say I didn't know. This might take a while.
Yeah.
Tell us. I want to hear it.
Time.
So when I was little, when we first moved down here, I was like 10 years old, and Benny and Kathy moved in next door to us. Kathy Joy. She was my hero. Like, I'd see her tape in the Ringe store on the counter, and I couldn't believe that her tape was sitting there on our little store. Because she was famous.
Right.
So then she moves in next door to us. And I mean, that was like a little girl's dreams. Like, it was like God's like, here, take this for a minute. Like, it was just the coolest thing to have. We'd go over there for crafts and all that stuff. But her voice, her laugh, her hair, everything about her, I'm like, I want to be just like her when I grow up. I would sit on my front porch with my little boombox and have her tape playing, blared, and just singing right along, and she's right next door. I think back on that now and I just giggle.
I love it.
But she was like who I wanted to be. Well, obviously when you're 9 or 10 years old, I haven't really developed a voice yet or anything like that. But I obviously must have been able to sing on key. Yep. But I sang my heart out all through my younger years. And then my teenage years hanging out and stuff like that, we would do Sunday afternoon, all of us young kids would get together, and my mom and dad had an organ, so we'd stop there and we'd sing together. And I just really, really, really loved the togetherness of singing, if that makes sense.
You sang at my house. Let me interject.
Yes, I sang at your house. I came to song night at Hawkinson when I lived there.
Yeah.
You and Josh and a couple other people were there. It was very small, but I loved it.
We had fun.
We had so much fun.
And just around the piano at home, the guitar, whatever, just.
Well, the guitar, I didn't touch until I was 25.
Did I ever play the guitar?
I tried a little bit at your house.
No, did I play?
Nope. You went to the piano.
Only piano. Okay.
Yeah, I wish you had.
Yeah.
You let me use yours, and you said you did know how to play.
Yeah. And I think, so when were you out there? What years were you out there?
2004 into 2005.
Yeah, see, I was long past my guitar playing days.
Okay.
I had played my guitar up until we moved into our house, which was in 93, 94. And then I hung it on the wall and got a piano because we were living in a little tiny trailer. I didn't have room for a piano, which is why I bought the guitar, because I could hang it on the wall and, it didn't take up space. Then I got a piano and I started playing that and never really played the guitar after that. I played it up until I had Kelly. And when I had Kelly, I was pregnant. So I was out here trying to play, I'm trying to show you guys, where you're holding it out there and it didn't work. I didn't like it. And I hung it up, and then she died, and I was like, I'm going to play the piano. And I did.
Yep. So did your love for guitar.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't still love it, but I know right now for the 25 years that it's been since then, if I wanted to start playing guitar, I know the pain that I have to go through to actually play it again, because it's not easy.
Yep.
And I'm not willing to do that. So it's easier to sit down at the piano and you don't have to tune it, and you don't have to, you just, anyways, that was a sidetrack. Doesn't matter.
So at about in my early, me and Brian, we got married when I was 22, I think. I don't want to do the math right now. Yeah. Anyways, I had sort of picked up guitar when I lived right before I moved to Washington, and I was kind of just learning it a little bit, but it never clicked. And then we get married. I have time just sitting around the house while I'm pregnant and stuff. Actually, after I finished working, must have been when Briley was a baby. I sat down and started learning how to play chords and stuff like that. And I really believe that's when I actually found my voice and found when I'd start singing, I could feel it better. So I could just sing how I was feeling rather than to the piano, making sure you stay on that note. And my brain, it was the whole freedom happened. So I start singing, but Brian would walk in the door and I'd stop. Could not sing in front of him. Couldn't do it. And so I had all my teenage years and into my married years, I actually had sung in a wedding with Lois. I sang in weddings, and that wasn't a problem. I'd get a little nervous beforehand, but I could sing in a wedding because they asked me to sing. Now, if I'm singing and somebody walks in the room, I either get quiet or I'd stop completely. I could not.
I've been line dancing, right? And I'll be in a room where there's people watching and there's a bunch of us line dancing, and I'm screwing it up and whatever, but I'm having a blast of a time and it's totally fine. But then I'm at home and I'm practicing a little bit. But if anyone in my house walks in the room, I just stop.
Yep.
Like I'm not dancing in front of them, but I'll dance in front of 70 strangers. Like, so I kind of understand.
Yeah.
I kind of understand this. So yeah.
For me, it's a really, really vulnerable thing to sing for two people. Like I could not like pick up my guitar and sing for the two of you. I could not do it.
No,
like I would
really?
choke up.
So
no, unless you said, hey, will you sing this song on this day for this?
Yeah.
And then I
you
would
have
do
to
it.
mentally prepare for that?
It's because I'm asked.
Okay.
I have to be asked.
So you wouldn't be like, I have this song I'd love to play for you guys. Like that would never happen.
I would do it and then post it on Facebook. And if you want to, you can listen to it. But if you don't, you can pass right by.
So you feel like,
I feel like an imposition or something. Like, what if they don't want to hear it? Like
you're afraid of forcing your talent on somebody.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you call it a talent or a gift?
Gift.
Okay. So,
well,
Stacey,
actually,
no, it's both now.
Now it's both. It's a gift.
Turning into both.
Gift.
Yep.
Yeah. A gift that you're honing.
Yep.
So, okay, let's go back then. So when you first realize that you have something, a gift, then is it a gift? And as soon as you start to hone it now, does it become a talent? But it's still a gift. So it's it's kind of like, how are they really different if we think about it?
Because for me, the gift was given to me. And then the talent part comes in when I'm willing to use it, if that makes sense. I still believe it's a gift for me to be able to get up in front of people. Like that's a gift in itself because my husband can sing and he will not, like he has a really hard time getting up in front of people. I think that might be another gift. But the talent part is actually like using it and getting used to it and being okay, like.
Okay with using it, maybe?
It's the practice of it, I guess.
Okay. Can I throw like a completely different definition? Cause this is something I found when I was like, what is the difference between a gift and a talent? Like what, let's think about this. Well, this website, who knows who wrote it, right? Says talents can be used selfishly and gifts are used to serve God's purposes. And is there any truth to that? Like, is there any scriptural basis for that?
I believe that.
It says, while we may find ourselves using our natural talent to serve our own selfish interests and desires, spiritual gifts have been given to us by God for the common good and to the glory of God. They're given to us so we can give them back to God as we serve his purpose of building the family of believers. I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess what I hear when you read that is the difference is on whether you're using it for self-promotion or for God's glory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're using it for God's glory and there may be some self-promotion, but and I think that's fine as long as that's not your primary goal, right? It's kind of like seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness and all these things will be added unto you. And there's Christian artists out there. I'm going to the big Hillfest concert tomorrow, as a matter of fact, with Matthew West and Kane and whoever else is going to be there. I don't even know, but it's like these people started off just with a gift that they created into a talent that they were using to serve God. And then all these other things, these opportunities presented themselves and they took them, but they still have a heart of worship and a heart to serve God with the gift that they have. But God's created a whole like life for them through that as well.
Yes.
That's the path that he's brought them down.
That's become their ministry or whatever.
Imagine if they hadn't used God's gift, they wouldn't be where they're at right now.
No. Mm-mm. So what was the first time that you realized, wow, God has given me this gift? Like, was there a moment in time?
It was, it made me tear up.
That's okay.
So, I'd say probably about a year ago. Actually, maybe a year and a half ago.
Tell me about it.
So Joey passed away. Joey passed away and it's funny because I wasn't close to him. He played and sang in my wedding. But he was just always that one person that if he was there, he was quietly there.
Yeah.
But he made you feel like he saw you there, if that makes any sense.
I knew Joey, so it makes complete sense.
So I don't know why. For some reason, when Joey passed, something just like, I don't even know how to explain it. Hold on.
Yep. You're good. You're good.
Take a breath. It's fine. We don't need to rush it.
No.
So there was something about him. He had come, I had at my mom's father's funeral, calling hours. They had asked me to play guitar and sing up at the front. And this has to be where it is because I cannot think of any other reason. I was sitting in the front pew singing and playing. It had to have been calling hours. And I'm sitting up there playing and I'm a little bit struggling. And he came down and sat on the bench with me with his guitar. And I'm like, I've got Joey sitting here. I am clueless when it comes to guitar. Whatever noise I make is it's enough to get by. Then Joey comes and sits down. He's playing along with me and I'm singing one of Kathy's songs. And he and Kathy were brother and sister, right?
Yep.
So he sits down and starts playing the song with me. And I get done and I'm like, I think I should just put my guitar away. And he says, no, boo, you stay right there and you keep doing that. He's like, don't you dare stop doing that. And then I didn't talk to him for years. It was years. I had seen him at a gathering at the church and he's like, hey, like he's sitting down at the steel guitar and he's like, hey, Boo's here. Come on down. And I'm like, I feel so special. I just walked into the back of the church and he spotted me and he was always so sweet. Anyways, so he passes away and it was all these flashes of all these little moments that I've had with him. And it was like God says, like, I gave you something and you have to use it. Like, I gave you this, use it. It's, do it for me. So he passes and I'm like, my whole brain is filled with, go live your life. Who cares what people think? Joey would quietly walk into a room, sit down, start playing the guitar and singing. No apologies at all, which obviously he shouldn't have. But my brain says, I'm sorry, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to make some noise now. Like, that's how my brain has always worked. And so when he passed away, so I don't know why this is.
It's okay.
So when he passed away, for some reason, something switched in me. And it kept like, this is where I found my soapboxes probably a week later after he had passed. And I had been sitting there praying about it. And, you know, why are all these thoughts going through my head type thing? And I got on the soapbox all of a sudden and I'm like, you know what? God gives you something. If God says, here, I'm going to give you this that nobody else can give you. You can't give this to yourself. You can't make yourself sound like this. You can't make feelings flow with this. Like, I don't care if it's baking or whatever it is that you do. God says, here, I'm giving you this. You better share it. And it, like, I understand fear. I get the fear. I understand. I don't want to get up there. I can't do it. And so when somebody tells me I'm scared, I'm like, so what? You're not getting up there and doing anything. God's doing it for you.
You know what I say? Do it scared.
Do it scared and God, like,
and give God the glory.
Every time I'm getting up in front of somebody, I'm like, Lord, my prayer is when I get up there, they don't hear me. They hear they hear what, the only reason they're going to hear anything good is because you are doing it.
Amen.
And so I got on a soapbox that if you're scared, do it.
Hey, I want to know this though. Have you quit apologizing?
For the most part, because it's kind of like I've been helping out with church a lot and I was asked.
Okay.
If they had asked me 5 years ago, I would have probably done it then. But now I'm more likely to just, like, we've been doing song services and the whole point of the song services on Sunday evenings is to get together and get comfortable with getting up there and just singing. And doing that, I have zero problems doing it. I don't feel like I need to apologize. Sometimes I'm like, sorry, that was a little low because I have a very low range. So it's hard for people to sing with me.
Oh, I would love that because I usually can't sing because people are too high. I'm very low as well. So, and I don't have any gift or talent. I'm not saying I do, but I love to make a joyful noise, especially with people who sing on a lower register.
So going back, like the 25, I wouldn't sing in front of my family. Like literally my kids hadn't heard me sing in years. My kids would come into the room and I'd get quiet and I'm like, how? I sang to them when they were newborns and when they were in my belly, they heard me plenty. Like, I don't know why I couldn't sing in front of them. Like how weird is that you can't sing in front of your own kids? But it wasn't until probably about 3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago, I started singing in front of my family more. Not really, like I could just literally walk into the living room while they're all in there, sit down with the guitar and start playing and sing. To me, that's a step that I've taken.
Yeah.
But after Joey passed, it was like, I had asked Frat one time too. I said, how do you get up and sing for a funeral? How do you sing for grieving people? And he says, you don't, you just get up there and do it. He's like, and if you start crying, you sing through it. And I'm like, but you should hear what I sound like when I sing when I'm crying.
Yeah, right.
It's not nice.
It's not pretty.
It's not pretty at all.
They're not going to put it on a, album recording.
No. Yeah, it's not going to be recorded, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, you just get up and do it anyways. Well, when Joey passed, that was my first opportunity. I was asked to go to Sheila's house and sing for them. And I actually made Carissa come with me, asked her very nicely to come with me. Mm-hmm. I was like, will you come sing with me? And she was all for it. So we get to their house and I'm walking in the door. This is how amazing God is. All the way to the door, we're both praying. Like, how do you do this? How do you walk into a grieving family's home?
Yeah.
Sit down and start
making music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody watch and listen now while I'm making noise for you.
Exactly. I'm going to sit
you're
down
probably going, yeah.
I was struggling and they're grieving and I'm so uncomfortable around grieving people. I'm so uncomfortable around them. So I walk in and Abel comes up. He's got a big hug. He's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. How are you? He's like, well, my dad died this week. And I'm like, okay, that's an icebreaker. Thanks. Mm-hmm. But the way it worked out is he walked in, big smile on his face, big hug for me, like a welcoming, glad you're here type of thing. Mm-hmm. And slowly but surely, somehow the conversations moved us to where we were going to sit. Mm-hmm. And then we sat down and we kind of just sat and visited for a little while. And then eventually somebody, like, I started playing in a little bit and singing. And not long later, Heidi walked in the door and she started playing the piano. And so it was
game over when Heidi sits on that piano.
Absolutely. She sat down and, oh yeah. But it was amazing because I left there and I said, for the first time in my life, I can't say I understand, but there's I don't know what the right word is, but when you walk into a grieving home and you bring your guitar and your voice or whatever talent you have, the Holy Spirit is sitting right there. And the biggest fear I had was walking into that grieving house. And it was amazing because it was surrounded by the Holy Spirit. You could just feel it when you walked in there. I'm like, I have never felt so close to the Holy Spirit. Like he was just surrounding all of us. And I'm like, now I get why people do it or how people do it.
But then the hardest part is the act of obedience of walking through the door. You know, like there is a part where you're called to do something and you have to actively take that step and you don't know what it's going to look like and you don't know how you're going to start it and you don't know how awkward this is going to be and you don't know what to say and you don't know how to, what I call hold space for grief. Mm-hmm. But you just do the obedience and God's going to provide the way and make it all work out. And send Heidi there to accompany on the piano and, you know, all of a sudden, because let me tell you something. I appreciate the obedience of that because I've been in situations of grief plenty of times and there's something healing about being able to sing, but you kind of, for those of us that don't have those gifts or talents, we need someone to help us, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's someone to kind of lead the charge, I'd say. It helps us to express some of the grief, even maybe to express some of the thankfulness, you know, in the grief or whatever it is. It's a way to express yourself when you don't have the words. You don't know what the words are. There is nothing that can really be said to someone that is in that place. Right. But music speaks to us in a way that I think it's universal.
Yeah, it is.
And it's really healing.
I can't imagine being one of those people that doesn't like music. I'm like, I'm so sorry you don't like music. But I know the gifts. I mean, it's more than just music though. And it's more than just like having an ability with an instrument. It's the speaking. Like the bakers and those people that like help out with putting on funerals and weddings and stuff like that. The coordination's part of it. And I'm like, those are such huge gifts. And I think every bit of the gift part is like the actual willingness to do it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I'm not willing to go and set up for 500 people. My brain is not there. And my heart is not there. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And that's the thing. We're not asked to, thank God, right? Can you imagine if, someone told me that I had to go and lead worship? Like what a disaster that would be. I have no gifts or talents in that area, but God uses us like this, right? In different ways. So I'm a church administrator for a church of 500 and I flourish in the role because God gave me these gifts and talents of administration. Mm-hmm. I can see things, I can see possible problems that no one else will see and take care of them before they become a problem, right? So I always say, no one even realizes I'm doing my job if I'm doing it well, because everything's functioning well. If I leave, then everyone will notice the job I've been doing, but you don't even notice I'm there until I'm not there. So it's a weird job, but
it's like being a mom.
Right. Exactly. So you know what? That's what it feels like. I'm the house mom for the house of God that I work in.
Yeah.
But I get to see all these gifts and talents, right? I get to see the worship team's gifts and talents. And so they have these gifts, but then they do practice and they do come early and practice and do sound check and all that. And I see the women who serve at the funerals, and I see the people who do the childcare, and I see the people who, and if I love what you said about if you have a gift, share it. You need to use it. You're not given a gift to just tuck it away somewhere and not let anyone see it or use it.
Mm-hmm. Can I read you this proverb?
Please.
Yes, please.
Like clouds and wind without rain is a man who boasts gifts that he does not give.
Oh.
So we have clouds showing up. We think it's going to rain. It's drought, and we see clouds, and then there's no rain.
Like clouds and wind without rain.
What good is a gift if you're not using it?
Yeah, these clouds are sitting up there just floating around, and they're promising rain, but you can't have it.
But they're not producing rain.
I love that.
Yeah. What is that? Proverbs what?
25:14.
Thank you. Yeah.
I had never read it before. I have read all of Proverbs, and I somehow did not even see that.
Isn't that crazy?
Uh-huh.
I love when that happens in the scripture where you're just how did I get to today years old without realizing that was there? I've read this
all the time for me.
It's when you need it.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's why, promotion here, read your Bible, please. Everybody that's listening, because it's important and it's different every time you read it. It's a different book.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same book, but it's the different book.
Yeah. It's the only book it's not a one and done. That's not a two and done or a three and done. It's like
food. It gets better if you keep reading it instead of getting boring.
Uh-huh. It's the only one that can. Other books can, I've reread books before that, I don't know, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe or something like that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's good. You can read it again 20 years later and you're it's still a good book, but you know what's going to happen.
And we know what's going to happen.
I know. And we do, but for some reason there's such a depth that gets mined out of it that you just
we want to know how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. That was a total sidetrack.
Oh, we're good.
So I have a question then about talents, because you brought the Bible into this. So now let's, my Bible nerd comes out. There's talent used in the scripture, but it's a parable that Jesus tells.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the parable of the talents. And I'm going to read this, just a few verses. Matthew 25. I might not even read the whole parable. I'm just going to read the beginning of it. 14 and 15. He's talking about the kingdom of heaven. For the kingdom of heaven, or for it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. So then Jesus goes on to say that each of these servants that had these talents, 2 of them used those talents to gain more talents, and the third one buried it in the ground and didn't gain more. And when the master comes back, he's angry at that servant who did not use his talent. He's like, you could have at least put it in the bank and I would have gotten interest out of it. Instead, you went and buried it in a hole in the ground. But is this talking about a talent or gift? Since we've kind of been using them interchangeably at some points. People do use them interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like a talent, like singing or public speaking or a gift of administration?
I think as a parable, I think it's more whatever he gives you. Every good and precious gift comes from above. It's any gift. It's the money he provides for you. It's there was something else I was thinking of when I was going through that verse, but even like the job he gives you.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out and you just kind of sit on the job and do nothing, you're not doing anything, and it's also to do all things for the glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was reading through it, and for some reason, I did not see money changing hands in that at all. when I had read through it at one point since we had talked.
Yeah. And so a little side note here for Stacey and everybody else. Boo and I actually had a little part of this conversation, which is why I was like, we need to record, because we started like a little blip of this conversation. And I was like, nope, push pause. Let's do this on mic because we love these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the talents in this parable, the word that's used is actually a monetary unit. It's a piece of money.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a large piece of money. That talent is worth 20 years of labor.
That's insanity. Just one of those.
Yes. A denarius is a day's labor.
Mm-hmm.
It's what a day laborer got. They got one denarius.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 365, or say 300 denarius for a year's worth of work. Is there 300 days in a year of work? I don't know. 250, whatever it is.
I don't know how many weeks paid vacation they got back then.
Right, exactly.
I don't know if they have weekends off.
Talk to HR about your perks package.
I don't know. Anyway, it's a pretty significant amount of money is the whole
it's
point.
20 years of work.
Yeah.
And it was just really interesting to me that, like, we look at this and in our brain, when I hear the word talent, if they had said, to one he gave $5 million, to another one he gave $2 million, and to the other one he gave $1 million, that would make this parable be what Jesus means.
Mm-hmm.
And when I put the word talent in there, to one he gave 5 talents, well, Boo can sing, she can play guitar, like these are talents God has given to her. And it changes the whole dynamic to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just curious. I'm like, what do you think? Does it make more sense to me as a monetary unit, especially since he's like, you could have put it in the bank. Hello. And earn interest on my $1 million that I gave you. At least I'd have a few dollars of change at, 3.5%.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I think, though, when I hear you read the parable, is what came to my mind is that I think a lot of people, myself included at times, like the guy that hid it under the ground, that just like buried it, it's out of fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. You know what his fear was?
Like, at the very least, I can give back exactly what I was given and nothing will be lost.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like not living with the attitude of trust and faith and abundance and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think nowadays, if you want to go to talents like Boo's talent or my talent or your talent or gifts or whatever, it can a lot of time be, and Boo even said this at the beginning, like before she kind of, the Lord revealed stuff to her or whatever, that it was a lot of fear of man, it sounded like. Mm-hmm. Fear of man, like not wanting to play in front of your husband or your kids or, and eventually it was like, this is a gift and I'm not going to hide it. Like, this is something that God has given me and like, why would I not share this with people? And I think that's kind of what I hear. The fear of man could stop people from even investing time into those gifts to create those talents.
And you know what else? The parable goes on. I'm going to read it. It's a really long, it's like many verses.
I know when you said you were going to read the whole thing, I was like, really long?
No, I said I'm not going to read the whole thing. No, I said I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Oh.
But I'm going to read a couple more verses.
Okay.
So the guy comes back, and then I'm going to read from verse 24. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. Here, I'm giving it back to you. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yikes. That took a dark turn.
Right? This is about the abundance and generosity of the master, though. He's like...
So do you think it's a wrongful view of God, then?
Yeah.
Instead of God as a loving father, it's God as a taskmaster, like... gonna punish and smite you if you screw up. So it's like a false view of God the Father. Is that what you think?
Yes. And it is about that burying your talent in the ground, your literal talent of music or whatever. It's the kingdom, this place. But he gave them his property. It says he entrusted to them his property. These are God's things that he's given to us.
Mm-hmm. This is not mine.
Yes, it's not ours. So I just find it so interesting that Jesus uses such natural things that we can understand, like banks and dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And it means something else. We can use it as a gift. We can use this parable as this master is Jesus. The servants are the believers. We're his servants.
Mm-hmm.
And the talents are those gifts or talents that he's given. And are we going to be that rain cloud that's promising rain that's
just holding it back,
producing anything?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hope not, because if you are, there's weeping and
gnashing of teeth, right? Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
But the thing is if there is somebody out there that is scared, you got to encourage them.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like if so-and-so, you've heard them sing from the other side of the bench in church, you say something to them, or you have somebody say something to them and ask them if they'd be willing to do things. People like me, you have to ask. Yeah. I'm always willing, always willing to help out with anything. If you think I can do it, then I will I'll try.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I will get ready for it and I will practice for it and I will try to make sure I'm ready. But I know that when I get up there, I'm not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes somebody saying, will you do this for me? And now I'm getting better of saying, hey, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll gladly step up and offer.
Yeah. I'll volunteer now, but not when you were young.
I know a year and a half ago, I would not have said, I'll do it. I nope.
Yeah.
I would have been crawling under a bench before I said that.
Yeah. So there's this perception that if you volunteer, even if people have said, wow, you have a really good voice or whatever, you could sing or whatever, there's this perception that somehow if you say, I'll do it, you're trying to put yourself out there.
Trying to show off and brag.
I'm showing off. There goes Boo showing off again.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge worry.
I know. And it's not the truth.
You know what? I think it really comes down to you have to know your own heart. You have to stay close to the Lord and know your own heart and your own motives. And there's always going to be people out there that are going to say things, because I've stepped into places before with a pure heart in wanting to help and have heard remarks about, oh yeah, you just like to always be in charge.
Yep. The boss. There goes Stacey being bossy again.
And I used to get offended about it. And now I really I've had to work on it. Don't get me wrong. I've had to really work on it with a lot of prayer and thinking about it and processing with a friend about, why am I offended? Why do I get offended when they say that, or hurt when I get it? Is there some truth to it? And I need to search my own heart in that. But if I in fact find that there is no bad motive there and that isn't what I was trying to do, well, here's the second part of it. Sometimes what I do, my personality, I don't know why I'm all of a sudden feeling like I need to confess this, but even though my heart's intent is not to come across as bossy or controlling, sometimes that's the perception of other people. And I've had to come to a place where I realize the onus is on me to a point to control a little bit about how other people perceive me, right? I can't completely control other people. I get that. But can I do the exact same thing that the Lord has called me to do and learn to be more gentle? Mm-hmm. Can I do that in a way that I can learn to be can I slow down a little bit and learn how to help people see that isn't my heart? And the answer to that was yes.
Yes.
I can grow.
Can I put my email through ChatGPT so it comes out a little nicer?
Quit telling my secrets.
You said it already on here. You confessed it already to the world. See previous podcast. I don't know which one.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I always will step back from hearing those kind of negative remarks about what I'm doing when I'm operating in my gift and using my gift. And I bring it to the Lord and I do search my heart and say, is there something there that I could do differently? And Lord, show me. Do I need to work on my gentleness? Do I need to work on my self-control? Do I need to work on like whatever these things are? Like, can you help? Like, and not that I can even work on them, right? Like, it's all from God. I have to just say, Lord, I surrender that. And like, I don't want to be so arrogant that I think that I know. I want to be like a humble servant and like help me to be humble, you know, and in that the humbleness comes from he was mocked and he did not say anything. He didn't retaliate. You know, they said, crucify him. And he went silent like a lamb to the slaughter. You know, like, did my Jesus react all offended? No, he didn't.
No, he did
And
not.
we know that he had pure motives. And we know that he had a pure heart. And yet people still said stuff. And so there's always going to be that too. But the warning is, bring it to the Lord and ask if there is anything in you first. And if in fact he says, no, child, like keep operating in your gift, then you do that and you really just try your best to say, they don't know what they're saying. You know, I don't know what kind of hurt they're speaking out of or what kind of jealousy they're speaking out of or whatever it may be.
Or even just cultural norms.
Well, I will say this, a woman like me who has a gift of administration, we don't fit into the culture super well, right?
I know.
So I tend to rub a lot of people the wrong way, and it is not ever intentional.
Right.
But it's hard for me to find spaces where I can fully operate in my gift and not offend somebody. I don't know. I sometimes I'm just like, oh, I wish I could just play the guitar and sing. Like that always brings so much joy to people.
So much easier.
But also I don't want to be the person that's like, Lord, I don't want this gift. I want a different gift. Oh.
Yeah,
like,
I get that.
He's like, you operate in yours, you know, and you let them have theirs.
Yep. And he's like, are you questioning the way I made you?
Yes.
I chose.
Yes, I am. And you know what? He can handle it.
Yep. Oh yeah, he can handle it, but he's like, excuse me, I'm the father here and I'm in the boss and that's what I gave you.
Yeah. I know. And
You
I'm
get
still
what you
working
get
on some...
and you don't throw a fit.
Oh, I remember you saying that. I literally can picture you at your old house at that yellow colonial, and it was like a Friday night and there was a bunch of kids there and it was time to have, you had like, I think like little mini somethings. It was like little mini Chips Ahoy cookies or something, like a like a big bag of like, I had a Costco size something. And you told the kids, put your hands out. And so they put their hand, like they cupped both of their hands out and she started dumping cookies like in their hands or whatever as they like were walking through. And one of them stopped and said, hey, I think they got more than me or whatever. And she quotes that. She says, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. And then she's like, or you can just give them all back. Do you want to put them back? And they're like, no. And so she was like, march away, you know, get on with it. So I have a vivid memory of that.
I love that. I love that.
That is funny.
Well, the thing with you saying that you get bad comments or whatever, negative comments.
Yeah.
Every single person I've ever met, and me, along with everybody else that I've ever met, one negative comment can completely delete 20 good ones.
It's so true.
Gone.
Yeah.
So there is quite a few very, very, very talented people that I know that I'm like, they are far beyond me in years and talent and gift and all of it. They are so far beyond me. But one time I heard one of them say something about getting nervous. It was something about insecurities. Anyways, so I decided to message a few of these people saying, planning to do a podcast or participate in a podcast. And I got a couple questions to ask you. And one of my questions was, do you ever get nervous? And for those of you that know Chandra, she said I could say her name.
She's so talented.
I asked her, I said, I'm pretty sure it was her many, like probably 10 years ago when I first had Facebook. I remember one of the posts was, do you ever get nervous? And she said she did. And I about fell over.
Because she looks cool as a cucumber.
She gets up there and she
has the presence.
So good at it. Like she just owns her space. And then beautiful stuff comes out of her. I'm like, how can you get nervous when you know that you're going to get up there and you're going to do that? Like my brain says, how are you going to get nervous? So I was shocked to hear that she got nervous or she had insecurities. Well, okay, think about her and how often are people like, wow, that was amazing. Good job. Thanks for singing.
Yeah, probably all the time.
But I know me. I know she hears it all the time, so I don't say it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many of us that say she hears it all the time. And so you say, smile and say thank you and then walk on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it was her, but somebody in that conversation 10 years ago had said, you forget to compliment the ones that deserve compliments because you think they hear them all the time and they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my, as far as encouraging people, encourage even them, the ones that you think hear it all the time, they probably hear it less often than somebody that's gotten up there to sing the first time.
That's good advice.
Uh-huh.
That is what's going to keep them. I know for me, I don't care. When you say thank you, I'm going to argue with you.
Mm-hmm.
When you say good job, I'm going to argue with you.
You are?
Every single time I messed up, I'm going to tell you all about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to argue with you, but in the back of my head, because I'm learning how to just say thank you guys.
Good job.
Yes. That is something to learn.
But you know what?
That's good to learn.
In the back of my mind, I want to go through and say, you guys, the reason it's not that I'm like, no, stop it. I'm not that good. I want people to know that it's not me. I didn't get up there and just do that. Whatever you heard from the Holy Spirit. I was just the vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's so funny because leaving church, the first time I did this, a special at church after we started going back to church, the first time I did a special, people saying things to me, I really wanted to stop instead of saying thank you and say, thank you for saying something to me, but it wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me a good job. It wasn't me doing a good job. There's so much of me that just wants to be to argue in that way. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can go through and tell you everything I did wrong too, but whatever you heard, if you liked it, it wasn't because I did it. I was willing. Thank you, Lord, for letting me be willing and have the courage to do it. But I really want to argue every single time.
Yeah. So one of my closest friends is the worship leader at our church, and I love having her on worship, right? So I tend to always be like, hey, worship was so good. And she used to argue with me oh, you didn't notice that I forgot this word or that, blah, blah. And she stopped doing that now. And a lot of times now when I was just oh, worship was so good, she's always praise God.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's right. I love that. God be praised.
Uh-huh.
Or thanks to God. Some people say thanks to God.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a kid, I thought it was trite. And now I'm no, actually, only reason I can do this is thanks to God.
It's exactly that.
Because I can't do it myself.
But I also think, let me just be a little bit devil's advocate here and say, though, that I don't think it's a bad thing to just compliment someone on a good job done, or to say, whatever. And for that person to say, thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Totally agree.
Because the fact of the matter is, if we really are going to delineate between the gifts and the talents, yes, the gift is from God, and that's what got you into the place that you're in and doing the thing you're doing. But the talent part of it is you do practice, you do take the time to do the thing, you do take it seriously, you do get up there. Yeah, I'm sure you're all prayed up by the time you get up there and all of that. There's all of this stuff that is done. So for someone to say thank you, Boo, for taking the time to do that, and for you to say thank you and accept the compliment, I think is not so. We've gotten to this point in the church, I think, where some people think that's pride, and it's not pride.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I was talking about when I said earlier, when you don't volunteer, it's because somebody's going to think I'm being all proud if I say, I'll sing. It's this weird humility, false humility.
I'm telling you what, though, there is such a thing as that, right? But typically people that are going to volunteer and say, I'll help with food, I'll sing, I'll set up tables, I'll do whatever. Mm-hmm. Those aren't the prideful people.
No, I know.
Those are the humble people.
I know.
Who are willing to put their own stuff aside and do so for others.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are the rare ones that are always wanting to be up front, and they need praise of man to fill some void in them because they're not spending time with the Lord. Sure, that happens.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I think that's what keeps people from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it keeps people from volunteering.
What does?
The perception that if I volunteer and say I'll sing, everybody's going to think I'm showing off and trying to be proud and trying to,
Is that really a real fear?
Yes, that's what makes some people hide their talent in the ground.
Do you think that's more for the creative music types?
It might be because that's very personal.
Cause yeah, I'm not of that group. So like, like you tell me, like, because this is kind of a new revelation to me.
Well, like art is the same thing, you know, like painting or you're putting yourself out there. And so when there's a position or say there's a service that somebody needs to sing at, we have this music thing. And if I stick my hand up and say, I can do that, the feeling of a person who to do that, to raise your hand and say, I'll do that. The fear is that if I raise my hand and say that, everybody's going to think I'm showing off. Everybody's going to think I'm a better singer than everybody else here. So everybody come listen to me sing.
And people are going to also, like that same person is thinking, well, if I was really called for that, they would have asked me.
If I was really good at this.
Yeah, they would have asked me already.
They would have already asked me to do it and they didn't. Mm-hmm. So obviously I must be, you know, like I must not have a gift.
Exactly.
Wow. I didn't realize musicians had so much.
It's not only musicians.
Like, well, okay, maybe it's not just musicians, but I think that
creatives, I think
it's fair to say creatives probably deal with it more.
But you know what? I've known what do you call them? The person that gets up and talks? The MC?
Yeah.
I've met 2 of them now that are like, I know you're so sick of hearing my voice. I know you don't want to hear me talk. They get up and do it because they were asked to do it. And they are like my favorite MCs too. But they were like, sorry you had to listen to that. Or they apologize.
I wonder if I do. So I just got asked, I'm emceeing 2 weddings, one in August, one in September. And when the second one asked me, I kind of thought, I wonder if he knows that his brother already asked me to do his like a month later. Like everyone, like, it's going to be some of the same people. They're going to be so sick of me bossing them around by the end. Like this went through my mind. Yeah. I'm not going to lie.
Like I'm going to need some new material here for the second one.
But all I thought honestly was, for one, I mean, it's a family I love. And I already told this family, like, whatever you guys need, like, I'm there for you, like, whatever you need. Cause these boys are both like really great people. But I kind of try to remove myself from it as much as possible, right? Like they asked me, and maybe that's different, right? Like, but I've never been like, well, I'll MC. I've always been asked. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever, well, except for the first time I did for the women's retreat that I put together, and I put it together and then I was like, who's going to do this? I'm like, shoot, it's me. I have to do this.
Yeah. There's everybody else is doing other stuff.
I painted myself into a corner and then was forced into it, but it was a happy mistake, like I said, because then I figured out that I was actually like really capable and comfortable doing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I'm processing out loud right now. I'm like trying to figure out like if I have these same issues and I just haven't like slowed down enough to think about it or.
Right.
The next time there's a need for it, see if you jump for it or like, hold on, let's see if anybody else is going to do it first.
I don't think I've ever been in a situation where someone's like, anyone want to MC? Like that.
I know, right? That's not, yeah.
No, you want to hear hilarious?
Because there's very few people willing to do it, honestly. I think there's a small group of us, so it's... Mm-hmm. Actually, you tell me your story, and then I'll tell you my funny MC story from last summer.
It's really quick. My grandpa in New Hampshire, we had his 80th birthday party, and somebody asked me, hey, will you go up there and tell everybody it's time to sing happy birthday? And I'm like, no. I will start singing happy birthday.
I'll go sing happy birthday.
I could not say it into the mic. I literally just put the mic aside and yelled out to them.
That's so funny. See, I'm opposite. Like I was just in South Carolina and I was at this thing and my friend was like, oh, we should get started or whatever. And they had asked someone else to pray and I was standing right there and she was just like, well, do I just pray? Like everyone's talking or whatever. And I was just like, I'm standing in between the two of them. And I looked at him and I said, do you want me to get everyone's attention so we can get this happening or whatever? And he's like, can you? I'm like, no problem. And I just start hollering. Like, there's no mic or anything, right? I'm just like, excuse, like, I just start hollering, and God gave me this really loud voice. Like, I don't have to try to project. Like, I have to try to tone it down because I'm always blowing people's eardrums out. But my funniest MC story about being asked to MC is this one. I got asked to, last summer, I got a text message asking me if I would MC at Camp Winnemac. I'm sure you've heard of Winnemac, right? Mm-hmm. So, I had just kind of gone through this Bible study where I stepped into a time where I was just like, you know what, like whatever is asked of me, within reason, of course, or whatever, that like for my gifts and talents, whatever, I'm going to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I get asked and I said, I already said it. So I was just like, so I'm going to say yes. So I said, yeah, not a problem. Let me know when I need to be there, details, blah, blah, blah. They said, awesome, whatever. So this was only like maybe a week or 10 days before camp that I found out that I was going to be emceeing skit night. So I'm all excited about it. So I'm kind of doing some research on different stuff, coming up with a little bit of material to fill empty space, this kind of thing. And I get to work and I tell one of my coworkers, like, oh, I'm going to be emceeing skit night. And they said, oh yeah, they asked me to do it. And I was like, nah, I'm too busy. And I was like, oh, interesting. So I was second choice. Big deal, whatever. And then I'm talking to my husband later that day and I said, oh, I didn't get to tell you I'm going to MC skit night at Winamax. I'm not going to be around next Saturday or whatever. And he was just like, oh, I was just talking to so-and-so. He said that they had asked him to MC and he didn't want to bother with it or whatever. And I was just like, are you serious?
Now I'm third
and he's
choice?
Like, yeah. And I'm like, so now I'm definitely third choice. And then someone else made some comment about something. I said, I might actually be fourth choice. No wonder why it's only a week before camp and they're still looking for someone, right? Because everyone's saying no. So I was just like, this is perfect. So I get up at skit night and the first time I have some dead space, I start telling them how honored I am to be at skit night and that I was like asked to MC because like this is such a staple of the community, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, and I don't even care when I like walked into work and my coworker said they were asked and they turned it down because they were too busy. Second choice is fine and everyone laughs. Then the next skit goes on. I milked this thing all the way out to like, then I was sitting with my husband, so in between each act, I'm like still just building on this thing. So by the end, I was just like, everyone's just giggling because they're like, I said, how many, my final bit on it was how many in the audience were asked to MC skit night and turned it down by a raise of hands, and everyone dies laughing. So then, yeah, at the end, the poor person who had like asked me to MC skit night or one of the people on the committee was just like, I'm so sorry. We really should have asked you first. And I was just like, I'm totally joking because I still am like, I was just in a position where I told God I was going to say yes. And so I did. And I wasn't doing it necessarily for the people. And I was just like, it gave me the best bit, right?
Yeah. It gave you, yeah. That's what a comedian plays to is.
Use what you got.
Truth. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So,
anyway. Funny.
That's great.
So gifts and talents, yeah. Figure out what your gift is and then hone it into a talent. Is that what you think?
And use it, yeah.
And then don't bury it.
Yeah. Yeah, no burying.
Yeah, don't. You'll be smoted.
I think that's another thing too, is encourage someone if you see that they have something.
And that when you think, I wonder why this person isn't helping out with this. They probably weren't asked.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, ask them. If you know somebody's talented, ask them.
See, that's interesting because I think to myself sometimes just like, why don't people just step up? If everyone would just help out, like it'd be so much easier around here.
But we need to feel wanted. Everybody needs to feel wanted sometimes.
Everyone does need to feel wanted and everyone needs to be thanked because then they feel appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is not against my growing up or anything like that, but I don't ever remember being like my parents saying, hey, you have a nice voice. Like never heard that. The one time that stands out, Alicia, we're going to Esco, Minnesota for a youth rally. I think we're actually on our way back and we were singing Lord Prepare Me to Be a Sanctuary. And she turned to me after we finished. We were sitting in the back, just sitting in the back bus seat. And after we finished singing, she turned to me. She's like, you have a really, really, really nice voice. You are so talented. And that was the first time, we were 13 or 14. Mm-hmm. First time I'd ever heard that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Seeds had to be planted. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And the cool thing is she's still one of my main encouragers now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This many years later, she's still an encourager for me.
Yeah. I was actually even told the opposite. I was told that you talk too much and you're too loud.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally the exact opposite of what my gifts were. But so that's why it took me so long to realize what my gifts were. Cause then I'd be like, hear people be saying stuff like, the Lord gives everyone gifts. Like you have a gift, just like you have to figure out what it is. And I was like, nope, I didn't get one. Got passed right up.
Mm-hmm. I'm loud and bossy.
Yeah. Like honestly,
I know.
I know. So this is because of that. I think though, I can hear when other people are negative to themselves. This is such a simple, example, but I'm talking to a girl in the lobby at church and she has naturally curly hair, but this day it was straight. And I said, oh, wow, your hair looks really nice. I never see it straight. I didn't realize how long it was, type of thing. And she's like, oh, thanks. And she goes, yeah, I don't typically straighten it because it takes way too long. I'm way too lazy. Mm-hmm. And I said, maybe you're not lazy. Maybe you're just really efficient and you know that your naturally curly hair is beautiful as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how about you don't put a negative context on what you're doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
She stopped and kind of looked at me and was like, you know what? You're right. I was like, you're not lazy because I know you. You're not lazy. Don't say that.
Yeah.
And it's just
priorities.
One example about how we do negative talk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so am I loud and bossy or am I good at administrating and taking charge?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. And they may have similar characteristics, but the feeling that is attached to one phrase and the other phrase are completely opposite.
One can build up and the other can tear down.
Exactly. That's it. Exactly.
And you could have heard that one comment, that one negative comment 20 years ago, and that's still the one that it sits right here.
Sticks right in your brain.
Even though 15 people since then have said, hey, will you come MC this event? Hey, will you come help out with this? Hey, can you take care of that? Because they know you will.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have to share this. I was doing a Bible study. I think it was Gideon. And part of it was insecurities are the cracks where the Holy Spirit shines through.
Mm.
Like if we didn't have our insecurities, we would be so puffed up about ourselves. And then, and you find that one insecurity and that's.
So that whole cracked pots thing, we're all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where the light shines. Don't hide it under a bushel.
Yeah.
But if you are hiding it, that little insecurity, the crack.
Yeah.
I like that.
I thought that was really, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gideon he couldn't see it.
No.
I don't know if everyone knows the story about look it up.
Look it up. It is fascinating.
Until he could see it. And then when he could see it, it's kind of like you, Boo, in a way, right?
Well, God's like, here, I'm giving you this. And he says, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'm giving you this, but I can't.
Doesn't it sound like you? This sounds like your story. I mean, probably a lot of our stories, honestly. Probably my story, too.
It really is. No, I loved that one. And then I did another one called For the Glory. And that's the one I had been searching for this podcast because I had so many notes in it. And it was during that whole 1.5 years ago, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was during the time when Joey had passed. I was working on that Bible study and that I can't find it. So it must be a God thing. I needed to look at Gideon again.
Yeah.
And it must be it was just not the right time to share that. Maybe we'll have to have you on and do a part 2.
Oh boy. People will be like, Boo,
another
again.
Only if she sings.
Boo, your gift is not talking.
I thought singing was.
But hey, don't tell me. I've been at coffee night.
Oh, I can talk like this. I can chat.
But that's what I'm saying. We should have you on again. And, when you find that other book, we can delve into this.
We can talk about doing things for the glory of God. Yep.
Deeper dive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like checking your motives though. And then if people want to say stuff, then they're going to say stuff. Don't you think there's always going to be, sometimes the enemy even uses other believers in our life to say things.
I've heard Carissa after she played the piano, did you hear me mess up? And I'm like, we did not hear you mess up. And I promise you by the next line, we had forgotten about it. So now I've been helping out with the piano, which I learned on an organ back when I was growing up and kind of picked up the piano on a table organ like this wide, the short little tiny table organs where you don't even have a full keyboard. I learned how to play kind of piano on that. So I kind of know how to play. And then they asked me to go to church and do it. And I'm like, sure. I'm like, I'll try it. And if it goes horrible, we started on a Friday night service. So it was a quieter service. And so I get up there and do it. And I think that night might have gone pretty good. My confidence was low, but other than that, it went fine.
I was there. I can testify.
You were there. I
was there to hear your very first.
My debut.
Your debut. It was beautiful.
It was rough, but I'm like, I know how many times I messed up.
No, it was beautiful, I said.
But she knows how many.
Sorry. Thank you, Lois. I really appreciate you saying so. We should practice this more often.
Yeah. We really should. And you know what? That's key. The way that you said that too, when you say thank you for saying that, I really appreciate that. When you tell people that you appreciate the fact that they said that to you, you know what you're doing is you're fostering them to say it to you again.
Or to say it to someone else.
And even encouraging them in their encouragement, right?
Yes,
like it's like this
totally.
full circle type of thing. I learned that from somebody too. And so I try to say that as well, that cause you do have to stop what you're doing and give someone that encouragement or that compliment and whatever.
Well, I get flustered. So a lot of times just like, hey, thanks. Or I argue. Like when you get flustered, you immediately put a barrier up. So now you got to defend yourself.
Well, yeah. And yep. And it's like the default method.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can change your default though.
You can. You totally
I'm learning.
can.
Yeah. It takes practice though. So keep feeding me the compliments, guys.
It does. You're doing great.
Hey, thanks.
You're welcome.
But what I was saying, like, I'm not bashing myself at all, but if I did make a mistake, by the next 2 lines, I forgot about it. And if the next song I made a mistake, by the next song I forgot about it. I'm like, now I don't remember what mistakes I made. I don't remember what mistakes anybody made.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what I realized as an MC? Sometimes the mistakes are the best parts. Honestly.
I have to share a mistake that Boo and I experienced. Wasn't it you?
Tell me. Maybe you're sharing with me too. We'll find out.
Whose wedding did you sing at with me? Oh, heavenly days.
Was it a mess or what?
I remember. But it wasn't our mistake. How could we have changed it? It was a disaster.
It was a disaster.
But nobody could hear us. It was fine.
Oh, like there was no mics or what?
Well, no. Okay, I'll tell you. It was an outdoor wedding.
Already trouble.
In Washington.
In Washington.
What month?
Yeah. August.
Hot.
Should have been safe.
We sang together at a wedding in Washington in August, historically on the day that it has never rained in recorded weather history. And dude, it was like Noah's flood was coming. Mm-hmm. It rained bucket loads and bucket loads and bucket loads. And there's sound equipment. There's everything's outside. Well, the decision was made. The rain didn't come until like, it was like threatening and it was spitting and whatever, but then it downpoured and they're like, we're doing the wedding. We're here. The chairs are set up. Everything's set up. We're doing the wedding here. We're going to move to the church for the reception. So we're going to do this. Well, we get up to sing and we start singing and I'm like, I can't hear. I started, didn't I? Yes, I started.
I think you started the first verse.
I started the first verse by myself. So this whole mistake is on me because I started. Like, I can't hear the keyboard. I can't hear the keyboard well enough to know.
Well, the speakers are covered in plastic bags.
Yes, the speakers are all covered. And we have a monitor at our feet under the whatever awning thing that we were under. Uh-huh. It's pointing at us. The speakers are pointed away from us toward the people.
Yeah.
But I can't hear the monitor. And I'm like, I can't hear. And I'm trying to hear those speakers that are pointed away from us with plastic bags over them. And I started singing. And of course, I started singing and Boo joins me at the appropriate time and we sang our Ever-Loving Hearts out. And it was awesome. In the wrong key. We were like this far off from the keyboard. The keyboard is going. Chat was playing.
How did you know? How did you ever know it was in the wrong key?
I actually don't remember. Is it recorded somewhere?
I have no idea.
I'd be so curious.
Probably not because it was raining buckets. The recording equipment was probably done too. I don't know. Chat was like a little bit like I could see her. She was very uncomfortable.
She was looking at you guys like, what are you doing?
She was kind of a little bit closer to the...
Was she like wondering if she should change keys?
She's like, should I stop? And just let them like fade out and let them do the last verse alone? Like, that's how we plan to do this? And I saw a couple of musicians in the audience kind of...
Cringing?
Sympathetic eyes is all I can say. Like, pull this up.
The takeaway from this story is like people just need to stop having these outdoor weddings. They're just too many variables.
So you know what happened?
What?
Our monitor was not plugged in. Our monitor speaker was not plugged in because it had been snapping and crackling because the cord's laying in puddles and it got unplugged and it never got plugged back in.
Whoops.
I learned a couple lessons that day. You want to know what one of my lessons was?
Huh.
Don't wear self-tanner lotion on your legs when it's got a downpour.
We had all kinds of fun that day, didn't we? It was a really cool wedding, actually.
It was beautiful. Even looking out, the sea of umbrellas looked so cool.
I know. And there was this colorful rainbow of umbrellas. Somebody took a picture from the back.
Oh, I bet it was so pretty.
And it was so pretty because everybody's got umbrellas and they're just like, you know, where they put all the shields together and they make a big, like, it's a method of battle and I don't know what
I've
called.
seen it on a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Where they lock shields together and make this big shield.
So that the arrows with fire can't get them?
Yeah. And that's exactly what it looked like, except it was umbrellas. It was a rain shield of umbrellas. All different colors and patterns.
You know, honestly, some of the things that go wrong in weddings are some of the best memories always.
And that couple, they were like effusively thankful at the reception. They're like, oh, we're so glad you sang for us. It was so beautiful. Oh, it was so perfect.
Telling you, God's like, here, they're just going to hear this.
Yes.
And I guess, let me correct this. Not things that go wrong at weddings. Things that go unplanned. Not as planned. I don't want to call them wrong because
Yes. Because what's wrong, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
No. The flower girl flipping over, so yeah.
No. Life doesn't ever go as planned.
No, exactly. No.
So we have to like embrace that.
And I just thought, oh, you guys, bless your hearts because you have no idea what it sounded like. And, and I'm glad and I hope you don't have a recording.
Funny.
That's pretty great.
But yeah, that was a great memory.
I had forgotten about that. It's still the wedding that it rained at. But.
Yeah, exactly. That was the craziest.
That's crazy. So what would be the big takeaways? What's the big, like...
Yeah, let's wrap this up. What is that?
The big advice.
Hide it under a bushel, no.
Yeah.
That's what goes through my head.
I'm gonna let it shine. See, this is why I'm not a worship leader.
But she joined me. That's why I do what I do.
I love it. I love it.
I think, like, one of my takeaways is if God's given you a gift, use it. Even if you're scared or nervous, because if God is the one that gave the gift and he's calling you to do a thing, he'll show up, right?
What is that?
He'll show up in it.
He doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Yeah.
So when he calls you to do this thing that you love, you can love it all you want behind a closet door, but when he calls you to do it outside the closet, say, okay, use me and let him use you and don't expect you to be doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Still practice.
But. And plug in the monitor speaker.
Make sure everything is ready for you too. Yes.
I think too, if you don't know what your gift is, it's not that you don't have one.
Right.
It's just that you don't know what it is.
Just tell Stacey what your most negative stuff is and she will flip it around and tell you what your gift is.
Yes.
You can email us
at whosegirlareyou@gmail.com.
WHOSE. Yep.
whosegirlareyou.com.
Not .com. We don't have a...
at gmail.com.
There you go.
Sorry, I work for a church.
I know.
Good thing I'm not using .org.
We should buy that domain. Seriously.
You definitely should.
Because I keep saying it.
I know, right?
But
Contact us at our website.
When I hear people saying like what their negative things are that they can't shake, a lot of times it is like some kind of gift or thing that the Lord has put in them that they have not figured out yet.
I think it's because that's what we're most vulnerable. We are most vulnerable in our gifts because that's where God is in us. That's the Holy Spirit in us.
Yeah.
Is our gift, and it comes out by using our gift. That's how we glorify him. So I can understand why it can, like the devil's going to say, nope, you keep that hidden right there. Keep that right there. You're no good.
He's even going to try to convince you that's not a gift. That's actually like the worst part of you.
Yep.
Yeah.
So don't listen.
Don't listen to the devil. That's the takeaway.
Yes. get out there and show him how it really is.
Yeah.
This has been so much fun.
I love your story. Yeah.
Yes, I do too.
And I don't know you well, but as I'm listening to you talk, we know a lot of the same people. And when I thought back about Benny and Kathy, Benny and Joey are brothers.
Yep.
Kathy would have been sister-in-law, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. I
mean sister, like, so, you know.
Sister-in-law.
It depends how people talk. Yeah. Some people like call their sister-in-laws their sister. So when you said, oh, like, you know, his sister, it's like, well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to me, they always were because her and Jimmy and her and Joey, they always played and sang together. Like, so they just equate. And then I remember, oh yeah, I know her brothers too. Just kidding. Different family.
Yeah. But yeah, I get that. Man, so how come some families just have musical talent just like runs through their veins? Like, it's like the gifting is just generational.
Mm-hmm. I think it's that family's known. So you go to that family. It's kind of, there's probably lots of gifted people that we really don't know about.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of, one of them happened. Lois's son.
Oh.
He opened his mouth and started singing and wasn't going to do it like as a special at church with Carissa. And I'm like, you have to do that.
Yeah.
and I gave him the whole, don't you dare hide that. And I gave him my whole soapbox. And then I felt horrible when I walked away because I'm like, oh no, I hope he doesn't feel pressured now. I hope I didn't push him. But then he did it and I said, good job anyways, even if you don't like me because of it.
You want to know what? I think a lot of us, we need a little push.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's encouragement.
Yeah, it goes back to what you said about needing to be asked. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes, that little bit of push and knowing like you push a little bit and try to encourage, like, no, you really need to do that. That would be really great. Knowing that if they push back any harder, you're going to say, well, maybe you're not ready, but I would, propose to you that this is something that I could see you doing. And like start planting those seeds
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we do want to be patient as well. It is another fruit.
And remember those people and be willing to ask again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or say, how can we get you started? Like, do you want to start smaller, or would you rather sing with somebody, or would you rather bake with somebody, or would you rather do this with somebody else first? I'll help you along. Encourage and like bring them with you.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good word too. We just went to, I went with the worship team. I sat in all the tech classes that they had there. I didn't go to any of the singing ones, like with all of the talented musicians. But one of the things that they told us in like the large group was when you see someone with a talent, and they were just talking about worship because this is like a worship event. When you see someone with a talent musically in some way, encourage them to come alongside, and maybe they're just going to be harmonizing with you or whatever. But if you really see a talent in them, ask them to lead one song, like not the opening song. Like you're going to open, you're going to start with the opening song. You're going to ask them to lead the second song and then, or maybe lead a verse, the verse of the song. And then they lead a song, and then pretty soon they can lead an entire worship set. But you bring them along slowly and gently, and you mentor them as they go and encourage them, because you can't just throw someone into something like, hey, do you want to lead worship at church on Sunday? And they're like, ah. But if you're like, could you lead the second verse of the second song? They're like, yeah, I could do that. Builds a little confidence. Now can you lead one song during worship? Yeah, that builds a little bit more confidence. And eventually they say, I think I could probably do this,
And hopefully they're not that one that's like, well, we're not asking them again. And then they do that one verse and then they never get asked again. Ask them again.
Yeah. Unless they're
Otherwise
awful.
They
no,
are.
just kidding.
I know exactly. See?
If they're awful, they're not going to be up there anyways.
If they're awful, they wouldn't have been asked in the first place. Yeah, I know.
It's just funny because I know how I work. Yeah.
No.
Encourage them, but seriously, start them off with that one and then ask them to do that again or even go further. But please don't just stop and be like, they must not have liked it.
And then for like months, Boo sitting at home being like, I must have sucked at that. That was so bad. Like, I'm the worst. I have no talent.
Yeah.
So we'll have you on for our next podcast called How to Stop Self-Negative Talk.
I'll practice between now and then.
And then, what was the other one? Using it for His glory?
Yes.
We have a 3-part. You're a regular guest. Welcome to Boo, our regular.
It is now Lois, Boo, and Stacey.
But we're actually like not going to talk to her for like 2 months so she can like self-criticize and learn from her own mistakes before we talk.
When Lois takes 3 months just to edit this because she's trying to fix everything.
Oh, it's been so fun to talk to you guys.
I've had fun. First thing in the morning. I appreciate it, guys. Not as early as for Lois, but
yeah. We're East Coast, so
yeah, we go.
We're
like, is the sun up there yet?
I get so much done on Fridays because I do this until 9 a.m. and then I hit the ground running. I'm jazzed. When we get done with this, I'm jazzed. I'm like, my house is clean by noon.
Nice.
And, like, I get a ton done on Fridays.
Yeah. This is like the kickoff to my weekend. So it's always a good way to start my weekend because I don't work on Fridays. So
yeah, that's why we record now this is Stacey's day off. And
rather than doing it in the middle of the day where I got to be back home at this time to go do this, I get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, it worked out good. My house was quiet. I had a cup of coffee. My brain felt clear enough.
Same with my house. My house is quiet. Sometimes, there's noise going on and there's not at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's been super fun. It's been a joy to get to know you a little bit better. It's so funny that by the end of each podcast, especially because people that are listening are only hearing audio, but I get to actually see the faces of these girls. Right. And by the end of it, I feel like, I kind of know you now if I was to run into you down south.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd recognize you now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's great. So thanks for taking the time to do this with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a great weekend.
You too.
All right.
Bye. See you guys.
Bye.